everyone, I'm Tabitha and I've read 5 more books. Okay, as always, please remember that if you're looking for my rating scale, like the scale that I use to rate these 5 books, remember that you can now find that at the end of the video. There's a timestamp in the description that'll help you jump to that if you're looking for it. Speaking of timestamps, there's also timestamps for each of the 5 books I'm about to talk about, so you can jump to one of those if that's the one you're looking for. But if you haven't watched them before, I'd say stick around and watch the whole thing. Grab those TBRs, because maybe I'll have some good books to recommend. Ready? Here we go. The next book I read in the month of July was Saving Hascal's Horrors by Laura Smith. This is a middle grade horror novel. It was independently published in 2014 and it is 255 pages. Your synopsis. Mike Hascal can't wait for the day when he grows up and takes over running his family's shop. But when Mike and his friends are banned from that shop because of a complaint, they'll stop at nothing to help solve a town mystery and get to the shop reopening to the public. So what didn't I like about this one? The first thing I can say I didn't like is that this one had kind of a slow start. There's a lot of short, dry sentences that make the writing seem a bit boring. It's lacking in major plot events in the beginning that make it really tough to pace from the start. It actually doesn't feel like a horror novel at all until you're pretty far into the book. Second thing I can say I didn't like is that the psychic angle isn't explored enough at the beginning, which makes it feel like a throwaway fact that we're using just to pull in fans of psychic stories. The third thing I can say I didn't like is that they overuse each other's names in this book. I think this is a common issue when you're talking about third-person point of view stories, especially middle grades. And as a middle grade teacher, reading these books with my kids, I saw that all the time. But kids don't talk like that. So when they read it out loud, even they notice it seems unnatural and a little bit strange. They don't use the name of their friend or a nickname for their friend every time they speak. It makes the dialogue feel really unrealistic and very forced. I get the purpose. It helps readers, especially struggling readers, understand who's talking or who they're talking to, but it pulls the realism out of the situation just a little bit. So what did I like about this one? The falling action of this book is great. The second half of this book altogether actually ups the excitement and the intensity. It's really well done and it keeps your interest once you get to that point. It gave me a sort of Goonies vibe through the whole second half of this book. And I love Goonies. I'm a big Goonies fan. So that was a solid win for this book. Second thing I liked about this one is the kids themselves. They have this cute yet realistic little friend group. I like that they weren't always completely perfect. They struggled. They had moments where they were fighting. That just felt real. And I think middle grade kids are going to relate to that friendship group and the way they interact with each other. Third thing I can say I liked about this one is that the ghost stuff was well handled. It wasn't overly scary. It was enough to pull you in. It's perfect for a middle grade style ghost story. I don't think it'll give any middle grade reader nightmares, but it will definitely keep them interested. Who do I think should read this one? Middle grade readers who are interested in ghost stories that aren't going to give them nightmares and keep them up all night are going to love this one. Also, if you happen to be reading with a middle grade reader, either because you're a teacher or because you currently find yourself in a homeschooling situation with a middle schooler, this one is a great lesson in falling action and how to resolve things while still keeping the story intense. My rating? I gave this one 3 stars. It's a good book for middle grade kiddos who like a little mystery and aren't afraid of ghosts. So 3 stars for Saving Hascal's Horrors by Laura Smith. This next book had the lowest reader average on Goodreads before this month started. The next book I read in the month of July was The Oddling Prince by Nancy Springer. This is a young adult age category fantasy story. It was published in 2018 by Tachyon Publications, and it is 288 pages. Before the month started, this was the lowest rated book on my TBR. Your synopsis. The King of Caledon lies on his deathbed, cursed by a ring that cannot be removed. But when the mysterious Fey stranger appears to save the king, he also brings a secret that may tear the family apart. What didn't I like about this one? Buckle up, my friends, there's a lot. The first one here is the language. It makes an attempt at being formal, royal, and old, but instead it feels forced and incredibly uncomfortable. Second thing I didn't like is the character of Eric. He's got a bad case of insta-love for another character who may turn out to be related to him. It makes me instantly suspicious and really awkward, and I absolutely hate insta-love, so that was a big turn off right from the beginning. I also kept thinking, hoping that was going to turn out to be like a Fey magic thing at work, right? Fey magic is making him think he's in love. And when it didn't go there, I was really disappointed. In fact, the third thing I can say I didn't like is all of the other characters in general. I kept looking for a character to be invested in, somebody to follow and to really care about. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't find any. There just were no characters that I cared about or remember a lot about now that I'm done with the book. The next thing I can say I didn't like, and this is kind of a big one considering the last one, is that there was a huge lack of stakes here. So in my opinion, there's two things that can carry a book. Either great characters you love that you'll follow no matter what they do, or really high stakes that you want to watch all the way through because they're intense. This book was missing both, and that's a huge problem. I think I couldn't find characters to care about, I already said, but I also couldn't find events to care about. There weren't events that I was wondering, oh my gosh, how will this turn out? And so because of that, I really had trouble pushing myself through the book. In fact, I had trouble finding the plot for this one. It felt like a series of short arcs that have no real ties together. So what did I like about this book? Because every book has something you can like, right? I would say the ending on this one wasn't bad at all. It was different than I was expecting, but I like surprises, and you know that about me. So the fact that this ending surprised me was a good thing. The other thing I can say I liked about this one is that there was a lot of promise to this story, and I realized that talking to someone else about it. There was a lot of potential here that could have been great. The beginning of the story was really rushed, but it was intriguing. I would have liked to see a story focus on the events before and then slowing down what happened at the beginning and stopping with that ring coming off and that curse breaking. That story would have been great. That's a story I would have been interested in. So who do I think should read this one? Look, I promised when I started this channel I was going to be brutally honest right from the beginning. This book I read because it was the shield for lowest on my TBR, and I have to agree with those ratings. I don't think that I could recommend this story to anyone. If you're looking for a story in this genre, I can probably give you other recs. I just don't think I could recommend this one. My rating? Well, whenever I say I don't think I can recommend it to anybody, you already know what's coming. I gave this book 1 star. I just didn't enjoy this one. It just wasn't for me. 1 star for The Oddling Prince by Nancy Springer. The next book I read in the month of July was This Time by Azaaa Davis. This is an adult age category fantasy novel. It was published in 2018 by Camp David Productions, and it is 250 pages. Your synopsis. Resurrected into present-day New York City, Nadira Holden is asked to save the world. She achieved legendary status when she gave her life to protect the world from demons. To her, it was yesterday. To the rest of the world, it was 20 years ago. So what didn't I like about this story? The first one was not a big one, and I want to say that some people who have reviewed this have said it was a big one. If you feel strongly about being needed to connect to characters, you might feel differently, but for me, it wasn't a big one. I just wasn't connected to Nadira herself. She seemed a little flat to me. I wanted to feel that shock of the time jump mentioned in the synopsis. I wanted to feel that with her, and I really didn't. So that, to me, that was a problem. But again, I don't need a book to be character-driven, so it was an excusable problem for me. Second thing I can say I didn't like about this one is there's a big twist that I don't want to spoil to Nadira herself. And it didn't make her feel more interesting. I think part of the problem was, as I've already mentioned, I had trouble connecting to Nadira. So this didn't help me feel any more connected to her. It just felt a little jarring, I guess. The third thing I can say I didn't like is repetition. There were a lot of phrases or points or words repeated in this one, which is normally something we see in younger books. They're kind of like key points that are being repeated for the purposes of driving a book home. In younger books, we see this because we want to make sure that a struggling reader understands and connects with that and doesn't miss a main point. But in an adult book like this, it just felt repetitive and almost like we were being talked down to. So what did I like about this book? The first thing I can say I liked is that the action in the story is well written. Sometimes in books, we're told the main character is a good fighter, but then the action scenes don't match with that, or the action scenes are too fast and you don't get to see it. In this book, the author did a decent job of showing us Nadira was a good fighter instead of just telling us she was. I liked how the scenes were written. I liked how quick they moved. They made the story interesting. Second thing I can say I liked about this book is the ending. I'm not talking about that final last chapter little twist that sets us up for the second book. I'm talking about the actual ending of the story. It was action-packed, it moved fast, it gave me more of Nadira. I felt connected to her at that ending more than I had for the rest of the book, and it was exciting. I know that scenes will have ramifications on any book 2 this author puts out, and that alone intrigues me. The third thing I can say that I liked about this book is honestly the entire concept of waking up thinking it was tomorrow and being slammed into 20 years in the future was great. In fact, the concept of demons walking among humans with peace treaties and all that was great. The concept of demon hunters who have basically been forced out of a job because of the peace treaties is great. Really what I'm trying to say is this whole book is packed with concepts that are original and refreshing and exciting that I loved watching explored. And I would love to see how they get explored in a book 2 as well. Who do I think should read this one? If you're a reader who likes or wants to try urban fantasy, so that's fantasy set in a current modern day urban society. If you are a reader who likes action-driven books, if you are a reader into demons and demon battles, I mean really, if you're a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, you're probably going to dig this book and you should be trying it. My rating? I gave this one 3 stars. You listened to what I just said, who I said would like it, and that's kind of a niche group. However, if you're in that niche, this is going to be your new favorite and you're going to love this book. So 3 stars for This Time by Azaaa Davis. The next book I read in the month of July is The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. This is an adult age category mystery thriller. It was published in 2014 by Orbit and it is 461 pages. Your synopsis. Melanie loves school. Every day, she anxiously waits while Sergeant Parks straps her into the wheelchair and secures her head so he can bring her to class. She loves when she gets a chance to talk to Miss Justinu about what kind of life she'll have when she grows up. She doesn't understand why those conversations make Miss Justinu sad. So what didn't I like about this book? Well, the first thing I can say I didn't like is it has a slow start. While I understand the importance of world building in this particular novel, it was tough to get started with. It takes a while to kick in and become something exciting. So I'm just going to say, if you start this one, stick through that slodge at the beginning. Second thing I can say I didn't like about this one is Dr. Caldwell. Since I didn't particularly like her, and that's okay because I don't think you're supposed to like her, so that part was all right, I found myself not liking the chapters that seemed to follow her. So if it was like a Dr. Caldwell chapter, I found my brain like checking out and thinking about other things, and I had to force myself to focus on her. Luckily, she doesn't have that many chapters. The last thing I can say I didn't like about this one is it is a little wordy. I found myself thinking this one could have been trimmed up a little to cut down on some of the slower parts. I mean, this book is almost 500 pages, and I definitely think it probably could have dropped about 100 of those pages off. So what did I like about this one? Melanie. She's intriguing. She is the perfect person to open this story because without her opening viewpoint, this would feel like every other book in this genre. Melanie is the difference. Melanie is what makes this different than every other typical zombie style book you've ever read. She's wonderful. It's genius. She is a twist all by herself, and I loved that. Second thing I can say I liked about this one is there definitely is horror. So I checked, some people classify this as horror, but you notice I said mystery thriller. It is categorized more often as mystery thriller than anything else. But you want horror and gore in a book like this, and this one definitely delivers. Maybe that's just me. But I don't think a zombie book is complete without a little bit of horror. This one delivers the nasty without overdoing it. Third thing I can say I liked about this one, and this, my friends, this is a big one. Like, this might go down as my new favorite ending to a book because this ending is just, yes, it's perfect. It's perfect. I wanted an ending that was going to just shuck off the traditional zombie type ending. I wanted this ending to like sink its teeth into something new and hard to get through. You know, I wanted something different. I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I wanted to be shocked. This book delivers. Like I finished it and had to go, did they just go there? That ending just, it was amazing. It was perfect. It's original. It's daring. It's definitely unforgettable, and I loved it. And for that reason, I'm sad to find out there's a second book, and I almost don't want to read it because to me, this was the perfect way to end the story, and I don't know what comes next, and that scares me. Who do I think should read this one? If you're a reader who wants something different from a zombie tale, like you feel like you've heard them all and you want something different, oh my God, read this book. If you're How about this? I'm going to say this is not your teenager's dystopia. So if you're an adult reader, but you want a little thrill, you want to play with that idea of the opposite of a perfect world, right? It's a world that seems perfect, but it's dystopian and it's messed up. This is not your teenager's dystopia. You should give this one a try. I also think if you're a fan of books that aren't afraid to shock, surprise you, and change things, you're going to love this book. My rating, I gave this one 4 stars. Adult thriller fans should not be missing this one. This book is wonderfully well done. 4 stars for The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. This next book was recommended based on my most recent 5-star read before the month started. The next book I read for the month of July, which is 6th for July and 5th for this video, I think, is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is a young adult age category contemporary novel. It was published in 2017 by Balzer and Bray, and it is 444 pages. And before this month started, this book was recommended to me based on other 5-star ratings of books I've read. Your synopsis. Star Carter moves between 2 worlds. The poor neighborhood where she lives, and the fancy suburban prep school she attends. But the shaky balance topples when Star witnesses the fatal shooting of her childhood friend, Khalil. So what didn't I like about this one? If I'm being picky, I would say this book is written for teens. So the language is really young. But I knew it was written for teens, so it wasn't really a negative for me. So I'm going to call it like a content warning. If you don't like listening to teens talk, you may not like this book. The second thing I could say I didn't like about this one is that the subject matter is not easy to read. We have violence, gangs, drugs, and more. You have been warned. Consider this a content warning. Do not dive into this book if you cannot handle tough subjects. So what did I like about this one? And I know some of you were surprised I hadn't read this one before this month, but the first thing I liked about this one is it is incredibly well written. The story itself is told in such a way that you are sucked into that story. You live it right along with Star. You feel her pain. You feel her confusion. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant because it puts you right in her shoes in an incredible way. Second thing I liked about this book is that it's timely. This puts police violence and racial injustice and racial inequality on blast by putting you right in the middle of all the actions. It's important and it's valuable. I mean, honestly, I wish it still wasn't. This book came out in 2017. I wish that I could say in 3 years we fixed so much this no longer feels relevant and timely, but I can't say that. So instead, all I can say is that you should read this one. The third thing I can say I liked about this one is Star herself. She is a great character. She tells it like it is. She's easily, beautifully relatable. I just love her. I feel like I would have been friends with her. She's great. I loved her. Who do I think should read this one? I'm going to say the same thing you've all said to me. Everyone? I mean, everybody needs to read this book. This one just keeps getting more relevant, unfortunately. It's important. It's loud. It's in your face, but it's needed. Read this one. My rating? You probably already guessed based on how I just said I recommend it for everybody, but 5 stars. Seriously, read this one. 5 stars for The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. All right, watchers, you just heard me give this book 5 stars. That means if you have a book that you think is similar to this book, please make sure you drop the name of the book and the author down below in the comments because I'll be choosing books based on this one for next month's TBR. All right, everyone, that is it for me and the next 5 books I read in July. I think I'm up to 6, which, considering we're halfway through July, is entirely too slow of progress. So I really need to get a move on. Anyway, thank you for being here. If you're an author or a publisher who had a part in bringing a book to life you want me to review right here on this channel, check out the link down in the description where you can submit that book to me. Please let me know if you have an audiobook available because the wait time for those is a lot shorter. All right, my friends, drop a comment to let me know you're still here. Hit subscribe and tap that little bell so you know when I'm back. Keep plotting the path to your own dreams, and I will see you next time. Bye! Regular watchers of this channel will already know this, but I do book reviews every time I've read 5 books. You should know that I don't read just one specific age category or genre. I'm actually a reader of pretty much anything. So I will make sure to tell you what age category, what genre it is, and more importantly, what kind of readers I think will love the book that I'm reviewing. I do use a 5-star rating system to review all my books, so I'd like to take a quick second to tell you about that system. 5-star ratings are reserved for books that I absolutely love, that I think transcend genre. In other words, you might love this one even if you don't normally read the genre it's written in. 4-star books, on the other hand, are books that I absolutely love and think are great books, but they're more specific to the genre they are written for. 3-star ratings are for books that I think are good books, but they have a really niche audience. You might not love this one, even if you normally read this genre. 2-star ratings are the ratings I reserve for books that I think are problematic. I do try to explain some of the problems in the What I Didn't Love section so that you know if it's the kind of thing that would really bother you or not. 1-star rating, on the other hand, are reserved for books that I honestly didn't enjoy and can't recommend. They're just not for me.